evening of 24th January 1556, as he was about to sit for his prayers, hearing the muezzin, his foot entangled in his costume, and he fell down the circular staircase of the Sher Mandal. Perhaps in the call of that muezzin was the final call of the Almighty. He died on 26 January 1556. Though named Humayun, or the Fortunate One, misfortune hounded him throughout his life. An attractive personality, but ineffective. Won over Gujarat, Malwa and Bengal, but remained an opium addict. Remained a refugee for most of his life and dealt with many blows. This was the final one. This old fort where you are seated now is neither Deepana nor Shergarh. It is a united adoration of these two lovers of Delhi.
The recorded history of the tales of the lovers of Delhi formed the pages of the Book of Heart of the Speck of Dust. However, even before Delhi, Deenpana or Shergarh, there was always this pious land on the banks of the river Yamuna. Today's old fort and the land around it forms the backdrop for a grand epic written in 800 BC, which the world knows of as the Mahabharata. In the second of the 18 parts of the Mahabharata, the city of Indraprastha, depicted by Vedvyas, is lost somewhere between here and the Nigambodh Ghats in this great mystery of the universe. When King Dhritarashtra portioned the land between the Kauravas and the Pandavas received the 5 villages of Tilpat, Bagpat, Panipat, Sonipat and Indrapat. The Pandavas, on the advice of Sri Krishna, decided to clear the forests of Indrapat or Indraprastha and make it their capital. They prayed to Agnidev for help. When the forests burned, a demoness ran out and sought shelter in the arms of Arjuna. This was Maya. Maya was entrusted with the responsibility of building Indraprastha. The palace that was built was illusionary. Kings, saints and gods arrived from far and near to look at it. Duryodhan, the Kaurav prince, also took a tour of the city with his uncle Shakuni and was entranced. But it did not take long for this to turn into envy. The palace had many attractions that created illusions and deluded the mind. Duryodhan too was misled. As he lifted his foot to cross the courtyard of the palace, he fell into a pond instead. The maids and Queen Draupadi, who were looking on, began to laugh at the spectacle. Feeling insulted, he left the palace in anger. His uncle Shakuni incited him to seek revenge and invited Dharmaraj Yudhishthir to play a game of dice. Yudhishthir lost all that he possessed and finally put his wife Draupadi at stake. Seeking revenge, Duryodhan proceeded to disrobe Draupadi in the royal court. Draupadi cried out to Sri Krishna for help, and he saved her from getting shamed in public. For 13 years after this, the Pandavas stayed in exile. On their return, began the greatest epic battle for the sake of Dharma, the Mahabharata. The battlefield of Mahabharat, Kurukshetra, is 200 miles from Delhi, and Speck of Dust is eager to narrate further.
After the death of Humayun, his son Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar made Agra his capital. During his reign, the Mughal Empire received a fresh impetus and scaled new heights of prosperity. He got the Mahabharata translated into the Persian, calling it the Razamnama. In 1643, son of Jahangir and grandson of Akbar, Shah Jahan built in the memory of his wife, Mumtaz Mahal, a mausoleum which is the 7th wonder of the world. Sculpted in white marble, a teardrop on the cheek of time, the Taj Mahal. When Shah Jahan fell in love for the second time, it was with Delhi. He built a colourful city from the Red Fort to the Fatehpuri Mosque and named it Shah Jahanabad.
If there be a heaven on this earth, it is here, it is here, it is here.
In the Red Fort, inscribed in liquid gold on the white marble of the Diwan-e-Khas are the words, "If there is paradise anywhere on earth, it is here, it is here, it is here." In the Naubat Khana, musicians play the rags which denote the hour of the day. The throne of the Badshah in the Diwan-e-Am is embellished with pearls and precious stones worth 86 million rupees. Two bejeweled peacocks, grasping rubies from Badkhashan in their beaks, spread their golden wings to form an umbrella atop the throne. The Red Fort, complete with its Rang Mahal, Mumtaz Mahal, Hammams, Tasbih Khana and Hayat Bakhsh Bagh, took 10 long years to be built.
Thy mercy is a great leveler, O Lord. All and sundry bow their heads in prayer.
The mosque with 3 domes, 3 umbrellas and 2 towers, built by 5,000 masons and sculptors, working night and day for 6 years, was the Jama Masjid. Relish the biryani, kebabs, sharbats, faluda and shirmal here. Watch magicians cast a spell on the streets or hear a dastan go weave tales of fantasy of Hatim Tai and Sindbad. Wish to your heart's content. Buy a lover for the lovesick, elixir of youth for old, and pink of health for the ailing. There is so much here that the wealth of Kuber falls short. Between this bazaar runs a canal in which you can see the reflection of the shops laden with untold goods. This is the 1520 meters long Chandni Chowk, built by Jahan Ara, the daughter of Jahangir. Many sultans came and many went after Aurangzeb. The numbers increased, but the power reduced. Meanwhile, the attacks on Delhi kept on rising.
Thy face is smeared with the dust of destruction. The plight of the heart is same as the plight of Delhi.
Nadir Shah of Iran, who came as a guest in 1739, plundered the city, stole the Peacock Throne and the Kohinoor from the Red Fort. When the attacks continued, the Maratha chiefs took Shah Alam under their custody. And that East India Company, whose William Hawkins in the court of Jahangir begged permission to trade with folded hands, barely 150 years later, in 1803, the same company's Lord Lake defeated the Mughal king and Daulat Rao Sindhia at Patparganj to take over the seat of Delhi.
The land of God, the Sultanate of the King, rule of the company, all and sundry are notified.
It was said that the Sultanate of Shah Alam extended merely from Delhi till nearby Palam. And by the time the last Mughal king Bahadur Shah Zafar ascended the throne, Delhi Sultanate was limited to the confines of the 4 walls of the Red Fort.
If the beauty of thy world had to be tainted every day, Zafar, weren't it better to have had no creation?
Zafar, a king by birth, was a poet in his heart. Urdu, the language of the elite, sophisticated, connoisseurs and poets, was born on the steps of the Jama Masjid and raised in Shahjahanabad. Poets like Mir Taqi Mir, Daag, Zauq, Momin and Ghalib passionately patronized this language of love and finesse. In spite of the swords of the Marathas or the cannons of the British, the Red Fort was alive with its mushairas. The last of the Delhi's mushairas was held in the court of Zafar. In 1857, a soldier named Mangal Pandey revolted in Barakpur, and by the time it reached Delhi, it became a full-fledged uprising. The soldiers in Meerut refused to bite on the cartridges greased with cow fat. The 85 soldiers who were sentenced to death were rescued by burning down the prisons. Rani Lakshmi Bai, Nana Sahib, Tatya Tope, Kunwar Singh, Begum Hazrat Mahal were committed to fight until death. On reaching Delhi, the revolutionaries convinced Bahadur Shah to join the struggle. On his orders, cannoneer Bakat Khan upturned the cannons. It took the British Army 5 days to reach the Red Fort from the Kashmiri Gate. Bahadur Shah took refuge in Humayun's tomb. The British resident imprisoned him a day later. He who had once commanded from the Red Fort faced a trial there.
Court stands adjourned till 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
He was sentenced to a life imprisonment and exiled to Rangoon. And there, in 1862, this last of the great Mughals passed away. After 200 years of Mughal reign was finally written off by the British, they turned the Red Fort into a cantonment and continued to rule from Calcutta. From the 1st of November 1858, Queen Victoria was in direct command of India. By December 1911, British rule was well established over most of India, and there were several problems in running it effectively from Calcutta. When Britain's newly crowned King George V and his Queen Mary arrived at the Bombay port, they were to board a 5-day train journey to Delhi. On 12th December 1911, the Delhi Darbar was held near the Kingsway camp in today's Santnagar. In the presence of the Viceroy and Lady Hardinge, a 5-mile-long parade reached the camp via Red Fort. A mini rail ran up to the gates of the camp. Bugles played and a 101 cannon salute was shot. Although the British had come to enslave India, they soon succumbed to the charms of Delhi. It was now their turn to make a new city, the 10th and the last, New Delhi. In 1912-1913, the duo entrusted with this task was Edward Lutyens and Herbert Baker. After a lot of rumination and arguments, it was at last decided that this symbol of British rule would adorn the Raisina Hills. south of Shahjahanabad. A mix of Western and Eastern cultures with balconies, umbrellas, domes, stupas and Grecian pillars. The Viceroy's palace in the center, the administrative offices on the sides. If a straight line were to be drawn from the old fort, it would cut through India Gate and end at the Viceroy's palace. The whole country was in revolt and the rulers in Delhi helpless. A population of 40 crores men and women had the sole desire in their heart, freedom. The efforts of Gandhi, Nehru, Gokhale, Patel, Tilak, Bose and Azad finally yielded results, and India earned her freedom on 15th August 1947.
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
Jawaharlal Nehru became the first Prime Minister of an independent India, and the Indian tricolour unfurled from the Red Fort for the first time.
History too has been a witness to this truth. Moments had erred and centuries are paying the price.
To unfurl the Indian flag at the Red Fort, India had to pay a heavy price by losing its two arms of Bengal and Punjab. The Radcliffe Commission drew a few lines on the map and the country was divided. The country that saw the dawn of independence on the foundations of unity and brotherhood was now torn apart by the politics of religion and the bloody nights of massacre. The history of the world had never been a witness to so many homeless people. Refugee camps mushroomed for those who crossed the border into independent India and for those who went across. The old fort, living up to its name of Shehre-e-Panah, gave shelter to 60,000 refugees. After balming the wounds of a bleeding Bengal, the messenger of peace, Bapu, arrived in Delhi. He vowed that he would stem the flow of Delhi's hot blood before he left for Punjab.